At 4:47 a.m. on January 6, 2026, Ukrainian reconnaissance drones detected an anomaly on the roads leading out of Korenevo in Kursk Oblast. A single vehicle was moving at high speed through the pre-dawn darkness, its thermal signature distinctly different from standard military transports. Within minutes, the footage was transmitted to Ukrainian intelligence units, and what they saw changed everything about this sector of the front. The vehicle was an Aurus Senat L700, a luxury armored limousine worth $2.1 million, modified with Level 9 ballistic protection and equipped with classified military-grade communication systems. This wasn't a logistics convoy or a standard command vehicle. This was transportation reserved for one category of personnel, senior Russian military leadership. And the result is visible in the footage as the limousine navigates through abandoned checkpoints, bypassed artillery positions, and scattered defensive lines that Ukrainian forces now monitor through persistent drone coverage. Near Korenevo in the contested Kursk sector, this shift has turned what was once a secure rear command zone into a battlefield where generals now face the same targeting systems that hunt ordinary soldiers. This stretch of road is no longer defined by stable rear positions, protected by layered air defense, but by constant aerial observation, where every vehicle larger than a pickup truck triggers immediate analysis. The presence of an Aurus Senat L700 on these roads in the pre-dawn hours created a tactical situation that would unfold over the next critical minutes. The limousine belonged to a senior Russian general commanding tactical operations across the Kursk salient. He had spent the previous 6 weeks coordinating defensive positions as Ukrainian forces maintained pressure on Russian-held territory. His command post was located in a reinforced structure 3 kilometers south of Korenevo, chosen for its distance from the active front line and access to underground communications infrastructure. Yet by early January 2026, that calculation had become obsolete. Ukrainian FPV drones were now striking targets 15 to 20 kilometers behind what Russia considered secure defensive lines. Reconnaissance systems maintained 24-hour surveillance over road networks, communication nodes, and any structure large enough to house command elements. The concept of a safe rear area had collapsed under persistent aerial observation and precision strike capability. Ukrainian intelligence had received confirmation through intercepted communications that a high-value target was preparing to relocate from the Korenevo sector. The intercept was brief, containing only movement authorization codes and a departure time window. Ukrainian units immediately positioned reconnaissance drones along the 3 most likely evacuation routes, focusing on roads that connected Korenevo to larger Russian logistics hubs further east. The Aurus Senat L700 departed 4 minutes ahead of the authorized window, suggesting the security team had detected increased drone activity and chose to move before surveillance coverage intensified with daylight. The limousine traveled without escort vehicles, a tactical choice designed to reduce its visual signature and avoid the attention that multi-vehicle convoys now attract from Ukrainian targeting systems. The vehicle moved at speeds reaching 110 kilometers per hour along damaged secondary roads, far faster than recommended for armored vehicles on degraded infrastructure. This speed was maintained despite the risk of mechanical failure or mine strikes, indicating the team assessed aerial threats as more immediate than ground-based hazards. The limousine's route avoided main highways entirely, using agricultural roads and village streets that provided overhead cover from tree lines and damaged buildings. Ukrainian reconnaissance drones tracked the vehicle through thermal imaging as it passed through 3 abandoned Russian checkpoints. These positions had been evacuated within the previous 72 hours as Ukrainian artillery extended its range deeper into Russian-held territory. The checkpoints showed no signs of ongoing occupation, with defensive barriers pulled aside and equipment relocated. The limousine passed through without slowing, confirming the route was clear of both friendly and enemy forces. The vehicle reached a critical junction near the village of Snagost, 8 kilometers east of Korenevo. Ukrainian intelligence had predicted this junction as a key decision point, where the limousine would either continue east toward Russian logistics centers or turn northeast toward the border region. The driver chose the northeastern route, placing the limousine on a 12-kilometer stretch of road with minimal overhead cover and maximum exposure to aerial observation. This decision would define everything that followed. The northeastern route offered faster travel time and more direct access to border crossings. but it sacrificed the protection of tree lines and village infrastructure. Ukrainian reconnaissance drones maintained continuous observation as the Limousine accelerated along this exposed section, its thermal signature bright against the cold January terrain. Ukrainian forces now faced a tactical calculation. The Limousine's speed and armored construction meant that standard FPV drone strikes would likely fail to achieve catastrophic damage. The Aurus Senat L700's armor package includes composite ceramic plates, reinforced door frames, and run-flat tires designed to maintain mobility even after significant damage. A single FPV drone strike would potentially disable the vehicle, but might not prevent the occupants from evacuating or calling for support. Ukrainian units deployed a coordinated strike package consisting of 3 FPV attack drones and 1 artillery spotting system. The FPV drones were positioned along the Limousine's projected route, spaced at intervals calculated to account for the vehicle's speed and potential evasive maneuvers. The artillery spotting system provided real-time trajectory data, allowing the FPV operators to adjust their approach vectors as the Limousine moved through the engagement zone. The first FPV drone struck the Aurus Senat L700, impacting the rear quarter panel at a downward angle designed to penetrate the thinner armor, protecting the rear wheel assembly. The explosion disabled the right rear tire and damaged the suspension system, forcing the Limousine to reduce speed from 105 to 60 kilometers per hour. The vehicle continued moving, its run-flat tire system allowing limited mobility despite the damage. The driver attempted an evasive maneuver, steering the Limousine off the main road into an adjacent field where a collapsed barn offered potential cover. This choice followed standard protocol for armored vehicle tactics under aerial attack. Seek overhead protection, reduce thermal signature, and establish communication with support elements. The Limousine reached the barn structure and positioned itself beneath the partially intact roof section. Yet this tactic had become obsolete in the context of persistent drone surveillance. Ukrainian reconnaissance systems maintained continuous observation of the barn structure, and the thermal signature of the Aurus Senat L700's engine remained clearly visible despite overhead cover. The vehicle's position was now fixed, its mobility compromised, and its location transmitted to Ukrainian strike coordination elements in real time. The second FPV drone approached the barn from the northwest, flying at an altitude of 15 meters to avoid detection until the final approach phase. The drone descended to 3 meters as it entered the barn structure through a collapsed section of the southern wall, guided by the thermal signature of the Limousine's engine compartment. The impact struck the vehicle's front section, where the engine, transmission, and forward ballistic protection systems converge. The explosion created catastrophic damage to the Limousine's mobility systems. The engine block fractured, coolant and oil systems failed, and the front axle assembly separated from the vehicle's frame. The Aurus Senat L700 was now completely immobilized, its advanced armor protection rendered irrelevant by the loss of all movement capability. Thermal imaging shows the vehicle's engine fire spreading within seconds of the impact, creating thick smoke that filled the barn structure. The general and his security team evacuated the Limousine moments later, emerging from the vehicle's rear passenger compartment and moving toward the tree line approximately 80 meters north of the barn. Ukrainian reconnaissance footage shows 4 individuals moving in tactical formation, with 2 personnel providing cover, while 2 others advanced in short bursts toward the concealment offered by the forest edge. This movement pattern followed standard Russian doctrine for personnel extraction under fire, emphasizing speed over stealth and accepting the risk of detection in exchange for reaching defensible terrain. Yet the doctrine was designed for scenarios involving direct fire and artillery threats, not the persistent aerial observation that now defined this battlefield. Ukrainian reconnaissance drones tracked all 4 individuals as they entered the tree line, their thermal signatures visible despite the overhead cover provided by winter vegetation. Ukrainian artillery units received targeting data for the tree line position where the team had taken cover. The artillery response was delayed by several minutes due to the need to reposition guns and calculate firing solutions for the woodland terrain. This delay would prove critical to the outcome of the engagement. The security team established communication with Russian support elements through encrypted radios. Intercepted transmissions revealed a helicopter extraction mission was underway, with an Mi-8 transport helicopter minutes away. The extraction point was 400 meters northwest, requiring movement through forest under continuous observation. Ukrainian forces deployed their third FPV drone toward the tree line, where thermal imaging tracked 4 personnel signatures. The drone approached using forest canopy for cover, descended, and detonated approximately 8 meters from the general's position. The explosion created immediate casualties. Thermal imaging showed 3 signatures becoming stationary, indicating injury or death. The 4th signature, assessed to be the general, began moving northwest toward the extraction point. Ukrainian artillery fired 152mm high-explosive rounds at the tree line in a 4-minute barrage of approximately 15 airburst rounds across a 200-meter section, designed to maximize fragmentation effects in wooded terrain. Thermal imaging showed the general's signature continuing to move during the barrage at a pace consistent with rapid walking or slow running, suggesting injuries but retained mobility. The remaining distance required 8 to 10 minutes through difficult terrain. Russian electronic warfare jammed Ukrainian drone frequencies for approximately 3 minutes before operators switched to backup frequencies. During this window, the general's thermal signature disappeared from observation, creating uncertainty about exact location. Ukrainian reconnaissance detected rotor noise from an approaching Mi-8 helicopter traveling at low altitude from the northeast at approximately 180 kilometers per hour and 40 meters altitude, using terrain masking to reduce radar signature. Ukrainian forces had no surface-to-air systems positioned close enough to engage. The nearest air defense unit was 18 kilometers away, beyond effective range. The Mi-8 entered a hover over the extraction clearing at approximately 5 meters above ground. Reconnaissance footage shows a single thermal signature emerging from the tree line and moving rapidly toward the helicopter, entering the cargo compartment within seconds. The helicopter immediately departed, climbing to 60 meters and accelerating to maximum speed. Ukrainian FPV drones couldn't intercept due to the aircraft's speed and distance from launch positions. The Mi-8 departed northeast toward Russian territory. Ukrainian intelligence later confirmed through intercepted communications that the general survived and was evacuated to a medical facility in Russian territory. Communications reference successful extraction despite complications, suggesting damage during the vehicle strikes or artillery engagement. The burned Aurus Senat L700 remained near Snagost for 11 hours before Russian recovery teams removed sensitive equipment. Ukrainian forces observed but didn't interdict, prioritizing intelligence from monitoring recovery procedures. Around Korenevo in early January 2026, targeting senior Russian command personnel through persistent surveillance and coordinated strikes has reshaped tactical reality. Russian generals now face the same threat level as frontline units, forcing changes in command structure, communications, and movement patterns. This engagement demonstrates how reconnaissance drones, FPV strikes, and real-time intelligence have collapsed the distinction between secure rear positions and combat zones. A $2.1 million armored limousine provided no protection once Ukrainian forces achieved persistent observation and coordinated strikes. Both sides are adapting to a battlefield where seniority no longer provides distance from targeting. The question is how command structures will function when generals face the same elimination timelines as ordinary soldiers. The lessons from this engagement point toward fundamental change in how military hierarchies survive under persistent surveillance. The burned Aurus Senat near Snagost marks the end of rear area immunity for senior command personnel in a war where observation has become total and distance no longer equals safety. My dear friends, please listen carefully to what I'm about to say. This video presents a tactical analysis based on available information and does not serve as propaganda for any side. Our goal is to provide an objective examination of modern warfare tactics, technologies, and their implications. We analyze military operations from a neutral perspective, focusing on strategic and tactical lessons rather than political narratives. The events described reflect the changing nature of warfare under persistent surveillance, regardless of which forces are involved.